Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. First off, I'd like to apologize for meeting under these circumstances, but thus is the life of being a Broncos fan. Secondly, I'd like to share that for me, this was the most painful sporting event I've ever experienced. My girlfriend asked me after the game if I was going to start crying. I responded by telling her I am now dead inside, so that is impossible. Anyways, getting down to brass tacks, had a lot of time to sit in a dark room with my friend John here and think about the events that just occurred. And I must say that this was a game that the Broncos had no business losing. I know a lot of people go back and point to the controversial calls, the pass interference on Tony Carter, the pass interference on Champ Bailey, the early contact on Decker on Manning's first INT, the tuck rule call on Manning. But really, the Broncos had way too many opportunities to put this game away and seized none of them. The talk of the town will be that very Brett Favre-esque INT in overtime for Manning. But we're not even there if Rahim Morris just does his job and swats that punt that Joe threw up in the air at the end of regulation. It really saddens me to say this because after all the strides that we saw Rahim make this year in the secondary in his second year in the league, but that was the worst play on a ball I have ever seen in my entire football watching life. I mean, he went straight up for it. He wasn't even trying to pick it. If he tapped it, there was still a pretty good chance that Jacoby catches that and just strolls into the end zone. Guess that's besides the point. Overall, though, I have to say that was the most atrocious secondary play I can remember in the recent Broncos watching history. Which really painful to say that as well because for me, the Broncos secondary was the best in the league this season across the board. But Torrey Smith, I know he's an up-and-coming receiver, and I know he's got some wheels on him, but he straight abused Champ today. Made Champ look like an old man, old man. I know a lot of that had to do with the pass rush being non-existent, which, I mean, is incredible to me. I think Von Miller's name was only mentioned twice throughout the day, and one of them was when his back started cramping up. Elvis was eaten up on almost every play. There was no push from the inside, which allowed Joe to get onto his second and third reads, made him look like the elite quarterback that he thinks that he is. Overall, I'd say that only a few players showed up. Trenton Holiday being the one I could think of most of all, obviously, probably the game MVP. Although that last punt return was pretty to watch. Brandon Stokely had an incredible game, showing up whenever you needed him. I thought Chris Harris actually shined through that secondary. And I thought Ronnie Hillman did everything that was asked from him and then some. I'd also like to get out of the way the whole Manning can't play in the cold rumors. I know that that was an excruciating interception in overtime. But beyond that, his play was pretty spectacular. I thought that the touchdown pass to Noshan was about as incredible as you could throw a football. I thought Stokely's pass was probably the silver medal incredible football throws. I think he was, at the end of the day, he was probably just trying to do too much. That throw across your body doesn't make sense to me. I know a lot of you Broncos fans have never, ever seen that out of Peyton this year. But I think it was cold, the game was dragging on. He was just trying to end it there, and it cost him. I do think it's important that we give credit where credit is due, because the Ravens came out today and executed like they were the far superior team. Joe Flacco had the game of his life. Ray Rice was getting something or nothing in spite of Jim Caldwell's awful play calling, and the Ravens defense came out and played inspired football in the second half. I know for many of you this will be an excruciatingly long offseason, as it will for me, but hopefully you can take comfort in the fact knowing that this team that we saw today would not have beat the Texans, would not have beat the Patriots, and certainly would not have beat any team that made it to the Super Bowl. Looking ahead, I did not think that this was the year, or at least entering the season, I did not think this was the year that the Broncos would win the Super Bowl. As it went along and we saw this team grow, I kind of hopped on the bandwagon and thought we might steal one in Payne's first year. But ultimately, that was not the case. I think as long as we do not lose too many coordinators to hirings and add a couple pieces here and there, this is going to be a Super Bowl team for the next 2 to 3 years, as long as Payne's in town. So here's to waiting for September, I guess. Signing out from Mile High Report, I'm Cody Olm.